This AEV 2.5-inch DualSport XP suspension lift system is for the 2018 or newer 4-door JL owner with a 2.0 or 3.6 liter that wants to invest in a premium suspension system for their overlanding and or tougher off-road adventures or expeditions that will hold up in high performance scenarios. Now, AEV has covered all of the bases with this system when it comes to lifting your JL with an intentional mild height that increases your ground clearance without tipping the scales, being a perfect middle ground for technical trails where you need all of the articulation without a high center of gravity. Now, the system also comes with components that are tuned for high-speed situations, more abusive scenarios, and heavier builds that are carrying a decent amount of gear. So if you're putting your JL through its paces and need a comfortable yet long-lasting system that comes with all of the supporting components needed, this will get the job done. I do want to call out that this specific kit will not fit the 4xe or 392 models, but we do have a version available of this kit that does fit both of those models, the 4xe and the 392, so just make sure you're getting the right one for your Wrangler. Now, there's a lot to love about this kit. One of the biggest takeaways about it, though, is the inclusivity with all of the components needed to dial in your suspension geometry so you get a more responsive and more comfortable ride than factory, and you won't have to outsource or question when it comes time to install it. Now, the factory coil and shock combo aren't necessarily ideal for high speed or high load-bearing circumstances, and AEV puts a lot of focus into that area for better weight handling and bottoming control, as well as increased wheel travel. Now, that's thanks to the progressive spring rate and the high capacity AEV Bilstein XP 8100 series reservoir and piggyback shocks. Now, that combo results in the ability to handle heavier loads with armor and gear loaded into the back without sacrificing height, and a sportier feel without jeopardizing any comfort. Now, the shocks are also massive compared to entry-level and even intermediate level options, optimizing heat management and oil capacity, in turn offering more consistent dampening over longer treks. Now, in addition to the technical benefits, this kit also does a good job at leveling the Jeep for a better appearance and fits up to a 35-inch tire on a Sport and Sahara model, as well as a 37-inch tire on a Rubicon model, upping the opportunity for increased capability with this system. Now, the construction here will vary from part to part, but starting with the most in-depth construction, this is one of the AEV Bilstein XP 8100 reservoir shocks. Now, this has a huge 66mm or 2.6-inch shock body, which is one of the largest on the market, integrated piggyback reservoirs or remote reservoirs, and a large piston, all maximizing oil capacity for heat and weight management, as I mentioned. These also have a massive hardened chrome piston rod for resistance to trail damage and leaking. They have an all aluminum build, which keeps them on the lighter side compared to steel and helps with heat dissipation when being worked really hard, and everything is covered in a painted silver or black finish to prevent corrosion on each portion. Now, the springs are made of a high tensile steel with a powder coat on top. These are also a progressive weight or a progressive spring rate for adaptability among terrain and the ability to handle up to 400 pounds over factory weight without sacrificing lift height. And AEV does have a high capacity coil spring option if you are over that 400-pound mark, so you get the same kit just with a high capacity spring. It also comes with a rear track bar bracket to correct the rear roll center for better stability, extended length front and rear sway bar end links, and new bump stop spacers to help accommodate for that additional height. The kit also includes upper and lower control arm correction brackets that are made of a stamped steel material and powder coated to hold up. Those maintain a proper pinion angle, and this also comes with a reef lash for the speedometer and even a jack base for the factory scissor jack as an additional bonus. As I mentioned, and as you can probably tell, this is a premium system and it's going to cost you around $3,400. Now, with the quality of this kit and everything that's included, that's a pretty fair price point and definitely worth the investment if you're looking for a system that's mild in lift height and engineered incredibly well for optimal performance for heavier overland builds, longer treks or expeditions, as I mentioned, and overall just need a high performing kit compared to standard options. Now it also comes with components that most kits don't come with, especially at 2.5 inches, including control arm brackets, a reflash for your speedometer so you don't have to outsource, and a jack base for additional safety, especially with the added height. Now with that, AEV puts these through vigorous testing, and this is FMVSS compliant, so if high performing and trusted is what you want out of a kit, then this is a great option for you. Install here is a 3 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, and professional or very experienced install is definitely required. Now with the right hand tools and setup, it should take about 5 hours or so in order to install it, and it's highly recommended to get an alignment after install for proper wear and proper performance. However, at this point, I'm gonna hand it over to one of our installers here. They're gonna show you a detailed breakdown on how all of these components bolt up to your JL. So that wraps it up for what I have to say. Let's go ahead and get into the install.
For this install, you will need various impacts, various size ratchets, adapters, extensions, a swivel adapter if necessary, the provided riv nut tool, a small Phillips head screwdriver, a magnet, a small pry tool, a soft hammer, 8, 10, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18 millimeter sockets, 18 and 19 millimeter swivel sockets, regular 19 millimeter socket, 21 and 24 millimeter sockets, a 5 millimeter Allen head socket, a clip removal tool, 10, 15, 17, 18, 19, 21, and 24 millimeter wrenches. And also not shown here is a spring compressor, a jack and jack stands, or some pole jacks. What's up guys, today we're going to be doing a lift kit on our Wrangler, so let's get started. Alrighty guys, so we've got our vehicle in the air. We've got a couple of pole jacks under our rear differential to support it. We're going to start disassembling our factory suspension. First, we're going to remove these trim covers in our fender liner so that we can have access to our upper shock bolts. They're held in by a few 7 millimeter screws, so we've got our 7 mil socket on our ratchet. We'll get those out and take that out and get it out of the way. Now we're going to come up here, and again we're going to use our 8 millimeter socket to take these screws out. You can just drop this down. Next, we're going to disconnect our brake line bracket from our frame. That's going to allow our differential to come down more. So we've got our 10 mil socket on our impact, and we'll get that off. You have your bolt out, you just want to pull that out of its locator, make sure it's free. And once you've completed these 2 steps for this side, you can repeat this same process on the other side. All right, so next we're going to remove our sway bar end links from our sway bar because we're going to be replacing these with brand new ones. So we're going to use our 18 mil socket on our impact and an 18 millimeter wrench for the bottom link bolt, and then just our 18 mil socket for the upper one. We'll get the upper one off first. So we have that out. We'll pull our bolt, get our link out. And once you have this one out, you can do the same thing for the other side. Next, we can remove our lower shock mounting bolts, again with our 18 millimeter socket on our impact and an 18 millimeter wrench. And once you got this one off, you can do the same thing for the other side. Next, we're going to loosen up our control arm mounting bolts on our frame side. This is going to allow for an easier drop of our differential. So we've got our 21 millimeter socket on our impact. Again, we're just going to loosen these. We're not going to fully remove them. And once you got this side loose, you can do the same thing on the other side. Next, we're going to loosen our upper and lower track bar mounting bolts. So we've got our 21 millimeter socket on a ratchet and a 21 millimeter wrench for this upper one. And for the lower one, we can use our 21 mil socket on our impact. Also move the sway bar. Now we can fully remove our shock, so we're going to remove our upper shock mounting bolt with our 18 millimeter swivel socket on our impact. Now we're going to lower our differential down enough to remove our factory springs. Check them for releasing of tension. Once you got it low enough, you can pull your spring out. Alright guys, so now we're going to install our sway bar bracket spacers. So what I've done is I've loosened up the opposite side of what I want to work on. Didn't fully remove the bolts, just loosened both of them. Now we're going to fully remove this side with our 15mm socket on our impact. It's going to kind of keep this sway bar in place, like so. Now what we're going to do is grab our sway bar bracket spacer and our provided M10 bolts with flat washers. We're going to get one through. We can bring the other side in. And we're going to put this right back up into its factory mounting spot. Get these bolts started. Now we're going to do the same thing for the other side, then we'll come back and tighten these down. Now we've got both sides in place. We're going to come back with our 17mm socket and tighten our bolts down. Once you got this side tight, you can do the same thing for the other side. Next, we're going to install our track bar relocation bracket. So it's going to go on the axle side of our track bar. So we're going to need to fully remove our axle side mounting bolt now. So again, we'll bring back our 21mm socket. We have a flag nut on the back of this. That's going to fall out. Pull our bolt out. We can pop our track bar out. So sometimes these are a little bit tough to get out, so we've got ourselves a pry bar. We're going to come in here, work this out nice and gently. So now we've got our relocation bracket. You've got this kind of jigsaw puzzle piece cut out. We're going to set onto our factory bracket. It's going to sit like so. So now what we're going to do first is grab our supplied spacer. We're going to go into our factory mounting hole. This is going to slide in between our new bracket and our factory bracket as well. And we're going to reinstall our factory mounting bolt as such. Also reinstalling our factory flag nut. Just going to get that loosely in place for now. Now we're going to take our track bar, get that up and over. Set that in position on our new bracket. Rotate that just a little bit. Enough to get our new bolt and flat washer through. This might be a little bit tricky to get in. Now once we have that bolt through, we're going to add in our supplied flange nut to the back side. Next, we're going to install our alignment pin and our provided bolt at the bottom locator. So there's a large hole in the back side that's going to go into this alignment barrel. We're going to get that in. We're going to get our supplied bolt through. Get that to go through your alignment pin. And on the back side of that, you can add in your flat washer and your supplied locking nut. Once again, we're going to leave all this loose for the time being. We'll come back and tighten it down at a later time, but for now, that's good to go. Now, one thing I want to point out, on the outboard side of this bracket, which is on this back side here, there is a hole that is capable of adding another bolt through if you want to drill a hole and add a bolt in to your factory bracket. Per the manufacturer recommendations, it is not necessary, but it is there if you choose to add that extra bolt. Again, totally up to you. The bolt does not come with the kit, but if you do so, you can. Alrighty guys, so now we're going to install our springs. First, we need to install our provided shim on the passenger side of our lower perch. This is because these model JLs carry more weight on the passenger side, so this helps correct the ride height for both sides. So we're going to set that shim. It's the circular one with no holes, right on top of the molded isolator. Set that right there. Then we're going to grab our spring and upper isolator and get this in place. So now we've got our factory isolator into our new spring. You can still line that recess up with that top coil just like your factory one. Then we're going to line our locator up with the spot up top. Get this in place. Set that on there. You might have to feel for that hole for the locator. The more important thing is that it is lined up on that top coil properly. Now that we've got this one set in, we'll do the same thing for the other side. Then we'll bring our differential up enough to hold our springs in place. We're going to hold our spring in place. Now we've got our differential raised up enough to capture our springs. And once you got this side captured, you want to do the same thing for the other side. Next, we're gonna install our new lower bump stop spacers. Now these are gonna mount right onto the factory lower perch. You already have 2 holes in here. So we've got our provided tapered head Allen bolts set into our spacers. And what we're gonna do is just drop that on. We're gonna get our provided lock nuts in from the bottom. So we'll lift this bolt up enough to feed our nut in. We'll get that started. Now we'll do the same thing for the front bolt and come back and tighten these down. Now we're going to tighten these down using a 15mm open-ended wrench for your lock nut and a 6mm Allen socket on an impact for your Allen head bolt. And once you got this one tight, we'll do the same thing for the front bolt, and you can repeat the same process for the other side. Now we're going to install our new sway bar end links. So we're going to put these in the same orientation than the factory ones came out. So your stud is going to go into your sway bar. You want to feed this behind your caliper to the mount. We'll get this in place first and loosely install our provided lock nut. You may need to move your sway bar around a little bit, like so. Then we're going to reinstall our factory bolt for the bottom. We'll get our nut back on. Once you've got this side loosely in place, you want to do the same thing for the other side, then we'll come back and tighten these down. Now we're going to come in and tighten down our sway bar end links. So for our new upper nut, we're going to use our 19mm socket on our impact. Then we're going to tighten our factory lower mounting bolt down, again with our 18mm wrench and 18mm socket. Then you can do the same thing for the other side. Alrighty guys, so now we can hang our new rear shocks. Now these are the big bore shocks, and you can see that the upper mount is offset. You want your shank to be facing inside the vehicle. So our shock is going to sit like so. So we'll get this up in a position to our factory mounting point. Then we're going to reuse our factory hardware. I'll just get this started for now. Alrighty guys, so now that we have our shocks hung and our springs in place and all of our spacers, we're going to start tightening down our pivot points for our rear suspension. Now we're not going to torque them down just yet. We're just going to tighten them down because we are going to need to put the wheels on and lower this vehicle to the ground in order to get the lower shock mounts on. Because what happens is these springs are very stiff, so the vehicle is going to start lifting off of our lift. And that's a safety issue, so you definitely don't want that. It's a lot easier to do this on the ground. So we're gonna grab a 21mm wrench and 21mm socket. We're just gonna tighten up our pivot points on our control arms. Again, we're not torquing them just yet. We're just doing this so we can get the vehicle on the ground and get the shocks mounted. So you'll need a wrench for this lower mounting bolt. You don't need one for the uppers. Then you can do the same thing on the other side. Next, we're going to reinstall our brake line brackets. So we'll line that locator back up. We'll grab our 10mm bolts and our 10mm socket. And once you got this one in, you can do the same thing on the other side. All right guys, so before we tighten down our track bar and everything, what we're going to do is we've gone ahead and removed the lower sway bar end link bolt. That's going to allow us to bring our differential up without risking lifting the vehicle. You can go ahead and do that. And then we're going to pop our lower shock mount in. So we'll line this up, get our bolt through, reinstall our factory nut. Then we'll come in and tighten our bolts down. Now we'll grab our 18mm socket and our 18mm wrench, and tighten these down. Now we'll grab our 18mm swivel socket and tighten down our upper shock bolt. And you can do the same thing for the other side. Now once you have your lower shock mounts in and everything tightened down, we can reinstall our lower sway bar end link bolt, again, just as we did before. And you can do the same thing on the other side and come back and tighten those down. So now you want to come in and snug down your track bar. So we're going to start at the chassis side, again with our 21mm wrench, our 21mm socket. Okay. Now we're going to snug down all of our hardware for our track bar relocation bracket. So we're going to start with our factory bolt, again with our 21mm socket. Now we'll go with our lower bolt. So we're gonna grab a 19mm socket and an 18mm wrench. Now that you wanna pull in tight enough to get that locator bracket, or dowel rather, all the way in. Now for our track bar bolt itself, we're gonna use an 18mm socket and a 21mm wrench for the nut. Get that on. Now we're gonna reinstall our fender covers. Get that back in place. Make sure that goes behind your bumper as well. And we'll reinstall our 8mm screws. This one back here sometimes likes to move around. Now we'll take our 8mm socket and tighten these down. And you can do the same thing for the other side. Now we're going to install our cover caps for our reservoirs. This is going to protect your pressure valve. Alrighty guys, so we're going to begin removing our front suspension. We're going to start by removing our front splash guard. Now this is held in by a bunch of push clips up at the very top and then a couple of screws down at the bottom. So we're going to grab our clip removal tool first and pop out these clips. And once you have the first few out, you want to go down the line and just remove all of them. Now you can support your splash guard and grab your 8mm socket and remove the lower mounting screws. And you want to do the same thing on the other side and pop this out. Now the next thing we're going to do is work on our brake line brackets on our lower control arms. Now the manufacturer does recommend for us to bend this up to the straight up position. So we're going to grab a pair of channel locks and bend that up before we remove it. About as straight as you can get it. Now one thing to note as well, if you're going to be doing rock crawling, it is recommended to trim this lower bent in tab off to prevent a snag point. But if you're not going to be doing much rock crawling, don't need to really worry about that. Now we're going to remove the mounting nut for our bracket with our 15mm socket on our impact. This is going to flap back down. That's okay, you just want this loose. And once you have this side off, you can do the same thing for the other side. All right, so our next step is going to be to loosen up our control arm bolts. Again, we're not fully removing them, we are just loosening them. Now, one thing is for the rear mount for the upper control arms, they are inside the frame rail. They also have a heat shield on them. So we'll get under there and show you how to remove that and get to this bolt, which also has a flag nut on it, and we'll loosen up the rest of our hardware. So now as you can see here, we have our heat shield covering our rear upper control arm mounting bolt. So it's held in by two 10mm screws. You got one down below that you can easily access. The other one up top here, you can't really see, but you can feel it. We're going to use our 10mm socket on our ratchet to get both of these off. So we'll get this upper one off first. Then we'll get our lower one off. And that'll come right out. Now we can loosen this bolt up using our 18mm ratcheting wrench. And you just want it good and loose. You don't want to remove it. We've got that one loose. We'll loosen up our lower one. Now we're going to loosen up our forward mounts. So again, for our lower one, 21mm socket and 24mm socket. It's a little tough to get it in here. Again, you just want it loose. Now we'll loosen up our upper mounting bolt using our 18mm swivel socket on our impact. Next, we'll remove our sway bar end links. So for the upper mounting nut, we're going to use our 21mm socket on our impact. Now for our lower mounting bolt, which has a flag nut on the back, we'll use our 18mm swivel socket, our impact. Pull that out, pull your flag nut out, pop your end link out, then you can repeat the same process for the other side. Now once you've got this end link out, you can remove the other end link as well. Now we're going to loosen up our track bar at both ends. So we're going to start on the axle side with our 21mm socket and swivel adapter. Right in there. And you just want it loose. We don't have to fully remove it. We'll do the same thing up on our chassis side. Now for this side, you're going to need a 21mm wrench as well as your 21mm socket. Now we're going to remove our shocks. We're going to start with our lower mounting bolt. So we've got our 18mm wrench and an 18mm swivel socket. We'll get this bolt all the way out. Now we'll remove our upper mounting bolt with our 18mm ratcheting wrench. If you wish to do so, you can remove your fender liner, but you can reach this with a ratcheting wrench without removing it. Now once you got it far enough out, you support your shock. Go a little farther. And remove your shock. And once you got this side out, you can repeat the same process for the other side. Alrighty guys, so we're about ready to lower our differential down so we can get our factory springs out. What we're gonna do beforehand to allow for a little extra droop is remove this clip bracket here. So we've got our clip removal tool. Just gonna pop this out. And we're also gonna remove this brake line bracket on our frame with our 10mm socket. Again, this is just gonna allow a little extra, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So now we've got our differential lowered down. We're gonna remove our factory spring. And you're gonna need to work this out kind of sideways. Go a little lower you can. You wanna keep this factory upper isolator in here. And once we have our spring out, we can pull our factory bump stop out. Just need to pull that out like so. And once you have this side out, you can do the same thing for the other side. Alrighty guys, so now that we have our springs out, our next step is going to be to install our provided upper bump stop spacers. So what we're going to do is grab our provided bolt. We've got this hooked onto a magnet because it's going to have to drop down into here, into this opening. This is going to make things a lot easier for you. So what we're going to do, get this bolt in here behind our fender cover and drop our magnet down. And once you get that bolt through the bottom opening, you want to grab your spacer. I'm just going to get this started. Now you want to lightly thread this on. It's just going to catch enough to hold it. Once that's caught, you'll be able to pull your magnet out. Next, we're going to take our 16mm socket and an extension on our ratchet. We're going to get that down into that opening. Now there is some stuff behind here that you'll have to contend with. Might even be easier to just get the extension in first. Drop that down. Hand tighten this at first just to get it on there. And once that gets pretty snug, we'll get our ratchet in here. Tighten that down. Now we're going to install our factory bump stop into our spacer. Now you can spray this down with some glass cleaner or detergent, something like that. Kind of makes it go a little bit easier. Yeah. Once you get this side in, you can do the same thing for the other side. Next, we're going to install our provided front passenger side spring spacer at the bottom. So what we're going to do for this one is pop this lower isolator out. You can just pop up on that like so. And we'll grab our spacer and install it in its place. Now you're going to install your provided spacer, lining that locator up with the factory position. And after we have that installed, we can reinstall our lower isolator. We want to line up that isolator clip and get that settled into place. So now we're going to install our new springs. Now, I've got mine compressed with a handheld spring compressor. If you have access to one or can get to an auto parts store to rent one, highly suggest it. It's going to make things a lot easier. So we've got ours compressed down. We get our spring up and into position. Now you're going to have to contend with all of your other steering components. Now I've got it to this point. Now I did get my spring compressor off. It did help me get over our steering components. So we're going to push this up. We're going to work this over our stop, lower isolator. Might have to turn this around, persuade it into position a little. Once you got that clocked on the bottom, you're good to go. And once you got this side in, you can do the same thing for the other side. Next, we're going to hang our shocks. Now we've got the big bore shocks, so we're going to need to point our reservoir fitting out and slightly towards the rear. We're gonna get our top mounting point in and reuse our factory mounting bolt. So you got that in, we'll start it. Now once you've got this top mount hung, you can do the same thing for the other side. So now we're gonna install our supplied outboarding brackets. These are gonna relocate the bottom mounting point of your shock. So now we'll get our outboarding bracket in place, followed by our supplied bolt. Then we're gonna get our supplied flange nut onto that bolt. Now you'll just wanna get this hand tight for now. It's gonna make it much easier to get your shock bolt through. Now we've got our lower shock mount into our outboard relocator bracket. Now you want the flat side to be on the outside of the mount and the taper of the mount to be facing towards the front of the vehicle. So swoop down like so. So we've got our provided lower shock mount bolt with flat washer. Get that through from the outside. Now you're gonna have to maneuver this around a bit to get it to go all the way in. Then once you've got your bolt all the way through, you can add in your flange nut on the back side. And we'll do the same thing for the other side. So now we're gonna tighten down our bottom shock mounting bolt using our 19mm swivel socket extension on our impact and an 18mm wrench for our nut. Now we're gonna use our 18mm socket on a ratchet to tighten down our upper bolt. Fish that behind our fender liner. Again, this just bends out. It's not gonna hurt it. Once you have this side tight, you can do the same thing for the other side. Now we can tighten down our adapter bracket bolt. Now this flange nut should hold itself in place. We're gonna use our 17mm socket to tighten this down. And you can tighten the other side as well. All right guys, so next up we're gonna need to install our reservoir mounting bracket. And to do that, we have our supplied rib nuts that are gonna go in here at the horn on our front bumper area. We have these hexagonal holes. We've got our rib nut tool. So we're just gonna thread our rib nut onto our tool. We're gonna stick that in to the hole. We're gonna grab an 18mm wrench for our retainer nut and a 17mm wrench for our bolt. And we're just gonna tighten this down. Now you wanna keep your rib nut flush with the mount. It'll start to get tight. We're gonna make sure we hold this flush, get this started. And once this starts getting tight, you wanna hold your barrel nut, tighten that in until that rib nut expands. And we'll loosen this up. Now once you have this side in, you can do the same thing for the other side. Now we're gonna mount our reservoir bracket itself. Line the mounting hole up with that rib nut. Take our supplied bolt. Get that in. And we'll come back and tighten these down. Now we're gonna hold this in place and tighten it down with our 15mm socket. Then we can do the same thing for the other side. Now we're gonna take our reservoir and our bracket. Slide this through. We're gonna grab two of our provided Allen head bolts with flat washers. We're gonna move this over to our bracket. These bolts are gonna thread into the mounting bracket from the back. It's okay if this slides around for now. You just wanna make sure it's in there. Now we're gonna loosely install our pinch bolt and lock nut. We're gonna get that through. Now we're gonna tighten our two mounting bolts down with our 5mm Allen socket and extension on our ratchet. I'm gonna get this relatively straight. Tighten down our other bolt as well. Now we're gonna tighten down our pinch bolt. Now you want about 1.5 to 2 inches of reveal on the bottom of your reservoir. Again, we'll use our 5mm Allen socket and tighten down our pinch bolt. Now once you got this side complete, you can do the same thing for the other side. Alrighty guys, so now we can install our new sway bar end links. Now the 24 and up JL comes with M14 openings in the sway bar as opposed to the old style M12s, which these are still. So our kit comes with these spacers that allows adaptation for the larger hole. So we're gonna install that. Put that into our upper link here. We'll install our provided nut. We're just gonna get that loosely in place, then we can get our lower mounting nut in place. So now we've got our bottom of our end link lined up in our bracket. We've got our factory bolt. We're gonna get that through. Now you notice this may not go all the way through because of the angle of our droop. So what we're gonna do is grab our socket and kind of work this into place. So now we're gonna grab our 18mm socket on a ratchet. You may have to work this bolt to get it started. Now we've got our factory flag nut. We're gonna get that onto our bolt and tighten that down. And we'll do the same thing for the upper nut. Tighten this down. Then you can repeat this same process for the other side. Alrighty guys, so our next step is going to be to install our geometry correction brackets for our control arms up front. They're gonna be going on the frame side of our control arm mounts. Now it is recommended to do this with all 4 wheels on the ground. However, to give you guys a better view of what we're doing, I've got jack stands underneath the front axle. I've got my lift lower down and the rear wheels on. So it is simulating wheels being on the ground. It's got the weight on the front axle. This is gonna help keep it straight while we work on this. Now you definitely only wanna do one side at a time. You wanna keep your axle as straight as possible. What we're gonna be doing is fully removing the bolts for our frame side of our control arms and getting those out of the way, installing our correction bracket, and then reinstalling our control arms onto that bracket. So we're gonna start with our lower control arm bolt. So I've got my 21mm socket and a 24mm socket on the nut side. Get that nut free. So once we've got our bolt out and dropped our lower control arm down, we're gonna do the same thing for the upper control arm. Now this one's gonna be tough to see because it is behind the frame, but you just wanna do the same thing. We're gonna reuse our flag nut and our factory hardware for both bolts, or for both arms to mount our bracket. Now I've got our 18mm ratcheting wrench on our upper control arm bolt. Now we've got our flag nut free. We're just gonna keep working our bolt out. Now we can push our upper control arm up and out of the way for now. You wanna get it to clear this bracket. Leave it like that for now. Now to make this a little bit easier, we are gonna fully remove our upper control arm. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the axle side bolt out, again with our 18mm socket on my impact. I'll just pull that out of the way. It's gonna make things a lot easier. Now you may need to use an 18mm wrench to hold your nut. We've got our nut out of the way. We're gonna remove our bolt. Now that we've got our other bolt out, I'm gonna pick up on our upper control arm and pull that out of the way. Set it aside for now. Now we're gonna install our new bracket. It's gonna line up with our factory mounts. This is gonna go in like so, slide over our factory bottom mount. What we're gonna do, get our upper bolt through. Might take some persuasion. Just wanna get that bolt through so it holds it in place. And we're gonna take our factory lower bolt and our provided spacer. Get our spacer in between where our factory mount is. It's gonna take up the space of our control arm. We'll line this up. Get our spacer over our bolt. Get our bolt through. Then we can reinstall our factory nuts onto our bolts. So start with this upper one. Get that back in position. We'll get our lower mounting nut back in place too. Now we're gonna leave these loose for the time being. We're gonna get our control arms into our new bracket. Now we did install our wheels, so I can move the axle around a bit and get this lined up. Might be necessary to move your axle back and forward. Line this up. So we'll hold it in like this. Use our wheel. Move this back. It's a little hard on the creeper. And we'll get our supplied nut on the back side. Then we can do the same thing for our upper arm. Now we're gonna install our upper arm. We're gonna start on our bracket side. We've got this relatively lined up. We've got our camber adjuster plates. Sorry, caster adjuster plates rather. You want the arched corner to be facing the front of the vehicle. This might take some moving around to get it lined up. You want that spacer to fit into the grooves. Then you want to install that same spacer in the same orientation on the backside, followed by your supplied nut. Now once you've got this side loosely in place, you can do the same thing for the other side, and then we'll come back and tighten everything down. Alrighty guys, now that we have both of our brackets in place and got everything loosely installed, we're gonna come in and tighten everything down. Now is the point. The weight of the vehicle is on the ground. Once you tighten everything, you want to torque every bolt we're going to tighten to the manufacturer recommended torque specifications. So we'll start with our control arms, and we'll also tighten back up our track bar as well. All right, so we're going to start with our lower control arm. So our original mounting bolt, which is now the bolt for our drop bracket, we're going to use our 21 mil socket, 24 mil wrench. And it's the same for the new lower control arm mounting bolt. And for our upper control arm, original bolt, we'll tighten down our 18 mil socket. Now we're going to tighten down our new lower control arm bolt using our 19 mil socket and 18 mil wrench. Next, you want to tighten down your factory hardware on the axle side of your control arms using your 21 mil socket and 24 mil wrench and your 18 mil socket for the upper control arm. Now we'll tighten our track bar back down using our 21 mil socket and swivel adapter on our impact. And you can do the same thing for the other side. Now once you've got everything torqued back down to spec for the front and rear of your suspension, we're going to reinstall our splash guard. Get this up under here, wiggle it back into place. We'll reinstall our 8 mil screws. You want to do the same thing for the other side, then we'll come back and reinstall our push clips. Now you want to grab your push clips and reinstall all those. These ones can be a little tricky with your bumper in the way. And you want to do the same thing for the rest of your clips. Now we're going to reinstall our brake line brackets. We'll get our lower one in first, reinstall our 13 mil nut. Now we'll tighten that back down with our 15 mil socket. Try to keep this as level as possible. Now we'll get our top one back in, so we'll hook that back into its locator. Get that lined up. We'll install our 10 mil bolt. Tighten that down with our 10 mil socket. And once you have this side on, you can repeat the same process for the other side. Alrighty guys, so now that we've got this on the ground, the next thing we're going to need to do is install our ProCal snap. This comes with your kit, and this will allow you to recalibrate your speedometer according to your new size wheels and tires, assuming that you are changing. This is going to make that nice and simple. So we'll get in the driver's side first and get going on this. Alrighty guys, so we're down here in the driver's side footwell, and what we're going to need to do is pull this carpet back to access the brackets that we need to remove to send our harness through, because we're going to be sending this through from the driver's side to the passenger side. There's connections we need to make on both sides. So we'll grab this, just pop this off, just need to pull this back a bit like so, and this is the bracket we're after. So what we're going to do first is grab our 10 mil socket. You definitely don't want to drop these down into your carpet. Grab that first bolt and then remove this 10 mil nut. You can just pivot that out of the way like so. That's going to help hold your carpet back. Then you want to do the same thing on the other side. The next thing we're going to do is come over to our OBD connector. Now we're going to need to remove that from its mounting bracket. It's held in by two little push clips, so you're just going to push in and pop that OBD2 connector back out. This is hard to see unless you're actually right down here. You can push that back out of its bracket. Bring this down like so, so it's nice and visible. Now the next thing we're going to have to do is kind of deconstruct our OBD connector. It's held together by these retainers. So we're going to take a very small flathead screwdriver and carefully pry them up and open up our connector so that we can pin in our harness. As you can see, these are labeled. You want to be in slots number 9 and number 1. That's going to be on your left side if this is upright, just like it goes into your bracket. So you want to get your screwdriver into the locking tab. That's this bar looking thing across the middle. You just pop that up, and there's one on both sides. So you want to make sure those are nice and free. And we'll do the same thing on the back side one, then we can separate our connector. Now, sometimes the screwdriver is just a little bit too thick, so if you need to, you can also use a pick. Now, I know this is really hard to see, but from the back side of your connector, we're gonna add in number 9, which is labeled our blue wire up top, and number 1 down bottom. You're just gonna slide that fully in. Make sure this is upright while you're doing so. Once it clicks, it should be nice and secure. And number 1 at the bottom in the same manner. And once those are plugged in, and lock your tabs back into place. We're gonna get our OBD 2 port back into position. And just lock those tabs back into place. So once we're done with that, we're gonna take our connector side and send it through the center of our dash, right where those brackets are that we just took off. Fish that through. Make sure to tuck your wire up and out of the way. And we'll head over to the passenger side. So now we're over to the passenger side. As you can see, got our wire through. What we're gonna need to do is remove our glove box. So we're gonna open that up. Now you'll need to push up on this tab. And that should just pop right down like so. And we can set this out of the way. And what we're gonna do is fish our wire behind. Have to find a spot for it to come through. And you can plug your connector into any open slot. Lock that in. And we can reinstall our glove box. That's just gonna push back, lock that back in. And we'll come right back over. Get our brackets back into place. Set that back on. Got our 10mm bolt. Just in place. Reinstall your 10mm nut. Get our 10mm socket and tighten these back down. Tuck our carpet back into place. Make sure this goes behind your trim as it came out. Pop it back into its locator, and you can do the same thing for the other side. And once you got everything hooked up and back together, we can take our ProCal snap, plug it in. As you can see, that lights up, and we'll go over how that functions. Alrighty guys, so now we're gonna need to pair our ProCal snap to our vehicle. And in order to do that, we're gonna turn our vehicle to key on, engine off position. So we're gonna press our ignition button twice. It'll turn everything on, but the motor is off. Now we have our OBD 2 port hanging down so you can kind of see it better. We're gonna plug in our ProCal snap. Alright guys, so once we've got our ProCal in, it's gonna blink green. What we're gonna do to pair this is we're gonna hold our cruise on off button while pressing the brake. You're gonna hear 3 blinks. Now your ProCal is paired to your vehicle and your vehicle only. Alrighty guys, so now there's multiple functions you can tune with this ProCal snap. The main one being the wheel size recalibration for your speedometer. So what you're gonna do is make sure that you are on FM, AM radio. So for that, go into your media, sources, make sure you're on radio. Either FM or AM is fine. Then you wanna go to your audio settings. Then your settings are where we're gonna put in our wheel sizes, tire sizes. So what you want to do, you're going to have your settings to where you like them. So what you're going to do is say you have 33s, 34s, 35s, whatever. You want to make sure you actually measure your tires because there's going to be a variance of a fractional of inches. So say you have 33.2-inch tires. You're going to put those measurements in with your audio equalizer settings. Always start with bass, no matter where it is oriented in your screen. So you're gonna go 30, that would be 3 for 30. that would be 3 for 33, and then 0.2. Now we're not gonna actually calibrate our wheels into our vehicle because ours have a specific size and it's already calibrated, although you can go back to factory adjustments with this. But what you want to do is once you have your settings on, you want to hold the brake pedal and the set cruise button until your horn beeps twice, and then it's calibrated and good to go. Now there are many other functions with this as well, including differential ratios, transfer case ratios, all sorts of things you can do. You can also clear DTCs and reset factory settings on this as well. Just want to follow the same exact steps. There's a designated button. It's pretty much all controlled as far as implementing it through your cruise control setup. Whichever you are trying to put into your vehicle, it's always going to be bass, mid, and then treble for whatever settings you're doing. So if you have 410 gears, it would be 410, something like that. And then based on what you're trying to set will be the button you correspond with on your cruise control settings, holding the brake and listening for the honks of your vehicle. That will signify whatever you're trying to calibrate is indeed calibrated into your vehicle. And then returning to factory settings is going to be the same designation based on your cruise control setup and your brakes. Alrighty folks, that about wraps up our review and install of our AEV 2.5-inch DualSport XP suspension lift system for your 18 to current 2-liter or 3.6-liter Jeep Wrangler JL 4-door, excluding the 4xe. Thanks for watching, and as always, for everything Wrangler, keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.